It is mid-March. I'm in my greenhouse. I've got some seeds I bought from Survival Garden Seeds, survivalgardenseeds.com. I'll leave a link to them down below in the description. Let's take a look in the garden. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. This is Urban Sentinel. Let's get into it. There's an old saying with gardening: for every one step forward you take 3 steps to the side. And pretty much that's where I'm at right now. For those of you who watch my channel and you've seen my other gardening, you know that it's a progressive situation. I improve upon some things and I fail at other things, and that's pretty much the way gardening goes. And I know I stated earlier it's mid-March, and for you more endeavored gardeners that have been doing this on a regular basis, and you say that, well, mid-March, that's kind of early, you haven't had the last frost and all that kind of stuff, you're absolutely right. But you know what? You can't stop me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So I'm going to show you through the new setup that I have for my garden. I've kind of tweaked a few things from last year, took the notes that I had for the improvements, and hopefully this year things will turn out a little bit better. All right, we'll start with the compost bin. It's actually looking pretty good. I took several buckets worth of compost out, put it into the mixture that I've got set up for my seeds that I'm going to be showing you next. Pretty much just a quick rundown. It's a 45-gallon black garbage bag. I've got holes drilled in through the sides down here and along both sides. Down inside there's a cinder block, sort of keeps it from basically blowing over. And this little vent pipe here goes straight down to the bottom. It lets aeration do its thing because there are holes drilled in through the side along there, but all the rest is all just, you know, kitchen scraps and everything else going into it. Now, at a quick glance, it's all buckets and barrels all the way down, with the exception of this one tub and the 2 baskets like this. The primary reasons for me personally doing the bucket system is, one, my soil is very difficult to work no matter how you try to amend it. It's near clay-like almost all the time. The first year I planted a garden, I had pretty much good success, but then each year after that, no matter what, it was harder to do. Second reason is woodchucks. They've been coming in and they've been tearing my garden apart, and I found that the things in the buckets were the ones that they didn't mess with. Everything else that was in the ground, whether it was a raised bed or anything else, if it was effectively within 10 to 12 inches, they were getting at it. And I've hopefully eradicated the woodchuck issue. I'll find out later on when the spring actually comes, but I've taken care of business, if you know what I mean. And that shouldn't be an issue from this point going forward. Now, in this basket, I had originally tried to grow potatoes, and I only got maybe 2 or 3 small potatoes. It wasn't working out well. I've added more topsoil and compost material into it, filled it up to about here. I've actually got bush beans planted around the perimeter in 4 different areas. Spinach and then turnip greens are going to be coming up through here. This bucket here is going to be Roma tomatoes, or one specifically Roma tomato. In this barrel, I've got bush beans, again, going around the perimeter, and then zucchini is going to come up through the center. I've got some sugar snap peas that'll grow here. I've got red bell pepper in this one. At the back here, I've got more bush beans and yellow squash coming up. I didn't do as much companion planting. The bush beans are the easiest thing to put into some of the containers that work well with those other plants without taking up too much space. I decided to opt out of adding carrots in with the tomatoes, that sort of thing, just because when I tried that before, even though nutrient-wise they weren't competing against each other, the space in the bucket, size-wise, it didn't work out as well as I had wanted it to. Come along, we got a cucumber up in here, more bush beans. We've got spaghetti squash that'll be back in here. A mixed tomato, those are those ones that come up with the multicolor rainbow mix kind of look. Eggplant for over here. And then again, bush beans, but butternut squash. And we've got okra that'll come through here. And then some jalapeno pepper that'll be in here. Now, I mentioned them briefly before, but Survival Garden Seeds, they are, I'm an affiliate of them. I purchased this actual survival pack, 30 heirloom seeds. They come in their regular seed packets, sealed inside this bag. I'm trying this out for the primary purpose of working with one seed or one seed manufacturer, because prior to that, I would buy my seeds where I particularly saw them. Sometimes I get several seeds from Lowe's, sometimes from a garden store that's in a different town, other times from, wherever I happen to see a particular seed that's like, oh, I want to try growing that. So I would have a mix. Most of them would be organic, some would be hybrid, and across the board, the uniformity as it is wasn't always consistent enough with the different brands to be able to narrow it down. So this year, with the exception of the butternut squash and the yellow squash, all the other seeds are coming from this particular pack that I have. And this big tub, I've got beets going around the outside, around the perimeter, and then radish growing in the middle. Then I've got these smaller individual pots, so I'll have some cabbage or a cabbage, head of kale, some Paris lettuce, collard greens, some basically rosa, it's a red leaf type lettuce, Swiss chard, broccoli. And then back here in this tub, on this side, it's those little finger baby carrots growing over here, and then regular long carrots, probably about 2 to 6 inches or more. They develop, and that's also the other reason why with the tub I was able to do it deeper this way. And then this basket over here, more bush beans, turnips, and arugula growing in here. Now, again, it's mid-March. Last frost isn't until technically, I believe, almost the end of April or May. And for the next few days, the temperature is going to be in the upper 50s, low 60s during the day, but still close to the upper 30s, low 40s at night. So my plan is, utilizing the posts that are in these, I'm going to be putting clear drop cloth over the top of the back section and the middle section, closing it all up. So this way it'll act as basically a greenhouse effect, keeping and retaining a lot of the heat that's in there. But wait, there's more. I've decided to do a smaller section of herbs. Those are going to be outside as they are to the elements, but it's not as critical because I only planted a few seeds in each one of the containers. So I've got cilantro growing in these 4. And come over here, I've got dill down to these. And then I've got parsley moving across here, and then basil going all the way down to the end over there on the far side of the basket. My idea is basically I'm going to be moving this backwards some, but draping the drop cloth from behind these barrels all the way down and tucking them underneath them, and then draping them over the tops with them resting on the posts up here, coming down, and then putting them down here. These 3 pots, one has sage, thyme, and I think fennel in it. I just decided to throw something in there, but I'll be using them to actually hold down the front end of the drop cloth. This way I can still get access to it, I can still water them and check up on them, but it'll help keep them insulated during the initial period where they start seeding and growing and developing. And then once the weather is a little bit more stable and warmer, I'll be able to pull off the sheeting, the drop cloth altogether, and they'll be out here. So it's basically direct seeding. I didn't want to waste time. I got lazy and setting up all the pots I needed to start them inside the greenhouse, to then transplant them into the different pots out here and go through the whole process. So, sometimes it is what it is, and I'll see how it works out from there. Quick update. Run into a little problem, but since I don't do time lapse, you're just gonna have to wait and see how it turns out. Don't ask me how I did it. I just did it, and it was hard. So, as I always say, measure twice, cut 3 times. Didn't work out exactly as I planned. Of course, most of my plans don't work out exactly as I want them to anyway. But it will suffice enough. It's an extremely windy day, not as bad as it was yesterday, but it was a wrestle match out there trying to get a lot of this plastic over it. So I most likely will probably grab another 2 plastic drop cloths, put them over the middle and the back one just to keep them covered up. They're more or less secured as they are right now, but it'll get the job done. Now, my plan is to do succession planting. So the first 3 weeks is when this crop is going to start developing. And then probably after it starts going, it'll probably be towards May, June area, I might get the first set of harvest from some of the plants, and then I'll wait a week and I'll do a second harvesting. For the ones that are heat sensitive, like the greens, I'll probably wait until after at least August and do one more, probably July going into August. So this way they start growing and developing into September, October, when it's still moderately warm, but not quite cold yet, but they won't bolt as quickly. The other ones, I'll just play it by ear as I go along, and hopefully I'll be able to keep a rotation of about 3 weeks between each sets of plantings. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll catch you in the next one.